Good morning, and I'd just like to start off by saying I'm standing in for Dr. Fiona Fraser, the Threatened Species Commissioner. The Australian Parliament has its Senate estimates on this week, and she was not allowed over to talk to us, although I think I know where she'd actually rather be. First of all, I'd like to take the time to acknowledge the Noongar people, the country on which we are, and recognise the traditional owners, past, present and emerging. So what I thought I would do this morning is actually sort of take a step back and give you a little bit of an idea about the progress we've made on tackling the impacts of feral cats. I could have actually gone back a very long way, but I've chosen today to go back to 2015, where there were a number of landmark sort of things that happened. First of all, the environment ministers met and made a declaration about feral cats as pests. So what's really important about that is environment ministers have really tight agendas when they actually meet, and to actually get feral cats to feature so prominently in their agenda and actually to come out with these very strong statements is actually a very big thing, and it's actually shaped the agenda of our work across the country since then. I'd also like to sort of mention in 2015 there was a feral cat symposium which tackled a lot of the same sort of topics that we're looking at now, but as you can sort of see from some of those, what was identified back then as our high priority future work items, some of them have moved on quite a lot, but you also see that there's sort of some very common things in there. I'd like to take a moment to give a lot of credit to our West Australians, and in particular the Department of Biodiversity Conservation and Attractions with their science and management programs for feral cats. Now, I know Dave Alger is going to speak to us very soon about how they've done some of this, but very much so taking a quite a holistic approach with tackling cats in open landscapes, tackling them on islands, eradicating them, sort of multi-species predator programs and things. And I guess the really key thing about what Western Australia have been doing is their willingness to share that knowledge and make sure that everyone, both across Australia but also across the world, has that knowledge to the best of what they can actually share and things. There's also, the Feral Cat Symposiums, the first one in 2018, and also the WA Feral Cat Working Group. So moving on to what the Australian government's doing, we've taking action on feral cats in several different ways, and I'll touch on a few of them this morning. So after the ministers declared feral cats as pests in 2015, the National Feral Cat Task Force was established. So the task force has met 12 times, and it's helped governments to navigate the path to removing some of the barriers to feral cat control. It's helped with the guiding the implementation and reporting around the National Feral Cat Threat Abatement Plan for predation by feral cats. It's helped implement the first threatened species strategy and the ambitious feral cat targets within there. And importantly, it's provided a forum for knowledge exchange and getting new tools out and available to land managers. I just mentioned then the threat abatement plan for predation by feral cats. The first threat abatement plan actually preceded the Environment Protection Biodiversity Conservation Act, but there's been a number of iterations of that, and there's one that's in a draft form at the moment, which a number of you might have actually been consulted on. over the last few months. The threat abatement plans set out a national framework to guide and coordinate Australia's response, and they identify the research, management and other actions that are needed to abate that threat. Importantly also, the focus is very much on the long-term survival of native species and ecological communities affected by predation. That's kind of, that last bit is actually what the Act asks us to do with those threat abatement plans, but they're actually also quite much more useful beyond that in terms of people can see what they're doing on the ground, how that links sort of to a national picture, and also can help them provide the justification and impetus for what they're actually doing. The Australian government funds the National Environmental Science Program, and the program between 2015 and 2021 put at least 3.24 million into feral cat work, and has delivered the answers to some of the questions that were vexing us back in 2015. So, you know, we know so much more about how many feral cats there are, how many mammals, reptiles and birds are killed, what native species are really susceptible. We know more about cats and fire in the landscape, how they use the landscape, the effects of disease, and so on. I could sort of go on quite a lot about that, but I know Sarah Legg is going to talk to us on that very soon. The next iteration of the National Environmental Science Program, the Resilient Landscapes Hub, is sort of taking this work forward for us. I mentioned earlier the threatened species strategy. There's a new threatened species action plan which runs from 2022 to 2032 with a very big goal of towards zero extinctions in there. That's a very ambitious target, but also contained within there are a couple of targets around feral cats. So that the feral cats are managed across all important habitats for susceptible priority species, and also in all priority places where they're a threat to the condition of that place. The Threatened Species Action Plan has 110 priority species in 20 priority places, which includes some of the islands for feral cat management. Those species and those places will provide sort of a little bit of an overarching umbrella kind of thing for a whole lot of other species as well. So if your favourite species is not in that 110, it'll probably get some love via those other ones. So moving forward, sort of our priorities are still very much the threat from feral cat predation and disease is still very real, and it's been exacerbated by other threats. So ministers, again, in their the last Environment Ministers meeting of 2022, recognised that, and again on their agenda sort of mentioned feral cats and other invasive species, and that we need to do more. I'd just like to sort of two sort of bits around that. We need to make sure that we're doing all of this in partnerships and bringing community in who are very enthusiastic and keen to sort of support all of this work. I think I'm actually speaking to the converted here on that point, but I think it's a very strong one. We're going to hear a whole lot today and tomorrow about how we can actually do all of that. So, thank you very much.